TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no rain with a heavy metal. No time, no veil, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. It won't stop. Come on, baby,
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for not one, not two, not three, but 4 men in a box. Yes, we are going to debut the show today. I am super stoked. I think the cat got out of the bag because I saw earlier this week Around the Horn will not be on much longer into 2025. I think they knew we were coming. I think we could be next. We got our own mini version of Around the Horn, so we are fired up here at the ECSI Sports Network. First and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsor and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download the app. It's free. I promise you, Travis, Zach, myself, Amber, Holly, Jay Berry, the list is endless. Get on board, not just for 2024, for 2025 and beyond. Viva Tequila Seltzer. It was announced today. Their new beverage, Lemon. Lemon. Shout out to CT Bet. Shout out to Austin, who I saw a couple days ago. We just got our next installment of Vivas, and the East Coast is cuckoo, of course, for coconut, but I guess now I'll have to come up with something for the lemon. So stay tuned for that. And of course, Atlanta Steak and Seafood. Jump on over to Facebook, introduce yourself to Terry Smith. While you're there, head on over to atlantasteaksandseafood.com. Steaks, chops, turkeys, appetizers, the list is endless. Seafood. Just ask Matt Grissom. I had an amazing sirloin last night. I had some lamb for dessert. Place an order today. You could be grilling by kickoff on Monday morning. Without further ado, and of course, Elijah Cox. This would not be possible without Elijah Cox here. So without further ado, let's bring the boys on, Elijah. Look at this. Bing, bang, boom. Welcome, gentlemen.
It's beautiful.
I love it. It's good to be back. It's been far too long.
Mr. Grissom, are you alive?
It's his first show. We won't hold it against him.
Are you on mute?
There we go.
There you
go.
go.
I said this is my flu game. My whole house has been hit with pneumonia, COVID, whatever you want to call it. It's been a rough week, but we're making it. It's Friday. Nothing a little bourbon and honey can't fix, so we push forward.
Mr. Quentin Mills, welcome back. On assignment for the last few weeks. It seems like forever. Nick filled in. Nick is now part of the furniture. He is a part of now 4 Men in a Box. We couldn't have been happier. Quentin, how you been?
It's good. It's been hectic between work. As you can see, the basement back here has been an ongoing project. We're in a race to get that completed before a certain deadline. But glad to be back. It's a nice refresher, nice break to talk football with the boys.
Nick, how are you today?
I'm great. 2 weekends of college football left. People are all complaining about the playoffs, who should be where. I'm just going to say, if you've never watched college football before, if you think there's not going to be another huge upset, it's going to happen to somebody. Somebody's going to get got. We don't know who, but don't be surprised when it happens.
I said that all week. We used to have 1 or 2 weeks in a row where there was some absolute train wrecks to destroy this. And there are a couple games here, one you won't like, of course, but if Army was ever to knock off Notre Dame, that would send this place for a tizzy. If Indiana would ever knock off Ohio State, that would send it for a tizzy. And God forbid the Wildcats do what they've already done this year and beat Texas. They've had some big upsets, Mr. Grissom. And next thing you know, this whole Tuesday, the next 2 Tuesday will be chaos, Mr. Grissom.
Yeah, imagine if Indiana beats Ohio State, though. I think that would throw the whole thing, because then you start looking at the Big Ten as a whole and who's actually good out of the Big Ten outside of Oregon. With Ohio State with 2 losses, yeah, they're still probably in the playoff, but now it's Oregon, Indiana that kind of gets to sit on top of the castle. But I don't, Penn State, what are they? We still, look at their best game was a loss to Ohio State. And really the same could be said for Texas. I think now that they haven't beat anybody that's in the current top 25, I'm looking at this Texas team, and we showed, Arkansas didn't play their best by any means, but they showed Texas still has a lot of flaws. Who is good? That's my biggest question. I mean, who can you point at, like you have been able to in years past? Who can you point at and say, that team's good, I trust them to go all the way? Because I got nothing. Maybe one of these other guys can tell me somebody.
I got the banana in the tailpipe last year, and I know you did too here. I was enamored with Oregon last year, and when they went to Washington, and there was an up and down game, and they had a couple turnovers, stupidity by Bo Nix, who looks like the real deal with Denver right now, by the way. But the point is, I said, don't worry, we're going to get him back in the Pac-12. We are going to destroy this team. And that number got steamed to 9, 9.5, 10. And then Penix Jr., Polk said, hold my beer. And next thing you know, they're playing in the championship game. Now Oregon, who already has a bid into the Big Ten championship, has already beaten Ohio State. Yes, I did give out Wisconsin plus 7.5 in the first half. I did give out Wisconsin plus 355 in the money line last week. Why? Because Oregon, at this point, doesn't have anything to play for, Matt.
Yeah, but they still wanted that win, and I think it was evident. I don't know why Dan Lanning chose to do what he did with saying that all of his players were bad, all of his starters were going to be on a pitch count. But you could tell at the end of that game, he didn't want to lose. So, yes, good job handicapping. Wisconsin was the right side. Oregon still plays with their food way too much. And we've seen it time and time again where they just kind of skate by and get wins without covering the number. He kind of turned it around in the midseason. But I think when push comes to shove, I'm going to take Dan Lanning over Ryan Day, and I'm going to take Dylan Gabriel over Will Howard. And even if Ohio State wins in the rematch, assuming that they're the ones that get there after they beat Indiana this weekend, I'm not going to be surprised if Oregon gives them the Washington treatment, though, of beating them twice. Because like you said, we all assumed, okay, Oregon's going to win in the rematch. How many Ohio State fans think that same way? And would you really be surprised if Oregon beats them again just because Lanning wants that feather in his cap?
Well, I had to laugh at Mr. Russell Saylor. Good morning. At Grissom on X, because Matt is rolling was taken, and yes, Mr. Grissom coming off of 5-1 last week. So have a Viva, have a couple steaks, and we will get to those selections here. Q, I am gonna shock the world here because I'm looking for value, and Matt's looking for a team that you can trust. And oh, by the way, Oregon probably was peeking ahead to Washington. They don't owe them just once; they owe them twice, and I think they're going to take them to the shed next week. I'm going to shock all you guys here. You Venmo me $100 to put on one team to make it and win the championship this year, I'm going to shock the world right now.
Wait, who are you going to say?
I think I have an idea.
Because I've got somebody too.
Yeah, same.
I'm going with Ole Miss right now.
Damn it! That's what I was going to
exactly
say.
what I was going to say. I knew that's what you were thinking. Yeah.
I'm going with Ole Miss right now. Why? Because the whole world and eyes are on Alabama because Jalen Milroe is rolling. Of course, now Georgia is Georgia. They're back, who struggled again against Tennessee. You're going to give me 10, 11 to 1 right now on Ole Miss, on Jackson Dart, and that defense? Quentin, am I crazy?
I think you are, and I'll tell you why. So you have a 5-way tie right now in the SEC, potentially 6 if Texas loses at any point, whether to A&M or to Kentucky. This is the first time where I think, obviously this is the first year 12, but even with the 4 that we've had for so many years, it's anybody's race. Anybody could beat anybody on a given week, and I don't think anybody would be surprised. That's why I'm going to tell you this. Go with the coaching. There's 2 guys that are in the running right now that you could, quote-unquote, say are proven. Kirby Smart, he's won it multiple times. The only other guy who's actually gotten there is Kalen DeBoer. He outsmarted Lanning 2 straight games last year. He got to, the juggernaut Michigan team. So I would consider that proven because he got there. Lane finally won his big game. But again, there's a difference between an SEC matchup game and a semifinal in a college football playoff. And until he proves me wrong, I have to fade him. Same thing with Dan Lanning. Yeah, he had a cool little, trick up a sleeve in a regular season game. That's all and well. Again, can he do that magic in a playoff game? I don't know. He had a big game last year against Washington, and he shit the bed for the second time, that season. That game was much bigger than a regular season game. When it comes there, Georgia and Alabama, when you have to put all the chips on the table, those are 2 programs that have won national titles. Those are 2 coaches that have been there, done that. 10 to 1 with Alabama, it's still juicy. Jalen Milroe is the best player on the field when he's able to play how he did, a few weeks this week, the first half of Georgia, what he did in Baton Rouge. Nobody can stop him in the country if that's the Jalen Milroe you get. Ryan Williams, another stud receiver, virtually uncoverable. The defense has gotten better and better each week. Then you look at DeBoer, great coach. He can make the plays. He just ran into a tough Michigan team. Kirby Smart, everybody was on Texas. He rolls into Austin, Texas, and smashes them in the mouth in all facets. The score made it look closer than it was. Give that guy an opportunity to prepare for a massive game. As long as Carson Beck doesn't throw 5 interceptions in the first half, they win the game. They have the players. It's a down year, but they can beat anybody in the country. I think Ole Miss is a crazy play until Lane Kiffin proves us wrong.
And I agree with you. Watching the baseball, watching the NFL, meaning the stock market, reading the market, they're still so bullish. Ohio State's the favorite now at 350. If you sent me and I'm not saying Ohio State can't get there. I'm not saying they're not the best team in the land here. I'm not saying that. But my point is, I don't see Zeke Elliott back there. I don't see C.J. Stroud. I don't see Marvin Harrison Jr. They've been hyped up to be that powerhouse team. Nick, I mean, Kiffin has been there, meaning he's been on big stages. They're not afraid. They play in the SEC, and I think they might get a bonus here, and here's why. A&M plays Auburn this week, okay? A&M could be peeking to next week, okay? It's matchup. The line's only 3.5. It's Auburn or nothing for me there. Talk to me about Lane Kiffin. Talk to me about Jackson Dart. Talk to me about the Rebels.
Yeah, I think it's a value play for sure. Now, I mean, if it was somebody said you have to pick a team for your life, I am probably going Georgia. But yep. I think value-wise, I love what Ole Miss is doing. They went to the portal. They got who they needed. Defensive line, it's the most dominant defensive line in the country. I don't think anybody's really close. Jackson Dart didn't start the year off well. Now he's playing great. They get Trey Harris back, who is still leading the SEC in receiving after missing 4 weeks. They get Diggs back. Their starting running back who hasn't played basically all season. He's back and healthy now. I think they're the team that's kind of peaking at the right time. Mm-hmm. They also they kind of have the 2 easiest games remaining on their schedule. they can kind of get healthy. They can kind of creep through. Just, I mean, don't mess up and lose something you shouldn't. But they kind of have a great path to be rested. They don't really have a shot, I believe, with the tiebreakers, how they work. They have like the least shot to get to the SEC championship game. So they should have one less. If they just stay with 2 losses, they'll get a good probably 9 or 10 seed. So this is a dangerous, dangerous team. Quickly, just to kind of reiterate where you said Ohio State has the best odds, I think it's because they're going to be the 5 seed. I think whoever ends up with that 5th seed in the tournament, you'll see those numbers released will probably be that's probably who will get the best odds. So if Bama ends up as a 5, they'll jump to the best odds. Like that, those 2 matchups with the 5 seed gets the 12, which is most likely going to be Boise. If Boise, say, gets beat in their championship game, it's probably Tulane. These big SEC and Big Ten teams won't be scared of that. And then if they win that game, then they get the 4 seed, which is most likely going to be the Big 12 champ. So it's Colorado, who all these teams are more talented than, or it's BYU, or it's Arizona State. So I think it's all about just the path. I think that's why they have the best number right now. I wouldn't play it because there's no guarantee they end up 5th, but it would be a good look once the actual bracket comes out to maybe lay something on whoever the 5th seed is, if it's around that 3, 4, 500.
No, and again, it's all about adding the value to the portfolio that helps you in the 2nd and 3rd round here. If I got a 10-1 Ole Miss ticket here in the boot and we're into the semifinals here, I'm going to have some money on the other side there. In the same, I just think Alabama, it's what have you done for me lately? Everyone sees the sizzle with Milroe the last couple of weeks. We know about DeBoer. Ohio State's been there all year. Kirby Smart in Georgia, there's a chip on the shoulder. What I did see from Georgia was finally the emergence of some tight end play. Carson Beck felt a lot more comfortable. I'm not calling their tight end Brock Bowers here, but you finally saw some resemblance in the second half there, Matt, of the Georgia-Tennessee game with the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, Georgia kind of showed up and proved that they're a force, and I think they've knocked Tennessee out. Looking at their path right now, the College Football Playoff Committee is telling you, and Nick brought up a very, very good point. You've got to look at the path of how you're going to get there. Georgia right now would play a Penn State team, which is probably overrated. And then they'd get Miami, who has cheated death in just about every single one of their wins. So to me, Georgia, Ohio State have the easiest 2 paths. Then you look at a team like Ole Miss. They're going to get an Indiana team, assuming they're still there, even though I think they've got 1 foot out the door. Then they would play Texas, and that's tough. And then Alabama would have to go play Oregon. That's also tough. So while I do like Ole Miss, I like everything that they have from an odds perspective, because I do think they've got the offense and the defense to contend with anybody in the country. That path of, okay, do you get a cakewalk game and then a semi-tough game, or do you have to go deep on deep with a Penn State and Texas or Miami, where the talent pool is so much greater than like a Boise State or a BYU? It's gonna show really who the big boys are, and it's not gonna surprise me if we get Georgia and Ohio State in the national championship. But I would love to see one of these other teams that are super talented, like Alabama or Ole Miss, get there. Just from the SEC, we're talking that.
And I'm going to go around the board here. We're going to talk a little about each individual's teams. I'll ask Matt instead of Arkansas this week. I want to ask him a question on a big game here because I think the slipper's going to fall off, but we'll get to that. Q, it's been a while. Great effort. You give Napier the vote of confidence. You get your quarterback back. Now is Brian Kelly going to be back next year at LSU? Thoughts on, it's been a while since you've been on the show, where you left with Florida to where they are today?
Initially, I wanted Napier gone. They had the buyout money. And then, as you kind of, with an early signing period this year, I think it's the right move to let him play. They run back the same schedule next year, so it's going to be a gauntlet. Let's say Kiffin does end up getting the job, right? He's going to finish the season before it's officially announced. Your recruiting class is gone. So they pretty much said, hey, look, we're going to ride out Napier. The boys are fighting for him. They obviously want him to stay. take that buyout money and go spend it in the portal. And this is your last opportunity is kind of how it felt like. I'm hearing rumblings they may force an OC on him. Not quite sure. He's has some great plays. Like he can draw up a good play. The problem is it's like his game management. I think if he can kind of step back and almost do a Saban-esque where like a GM on the sidelines, let your guys coach and you interject as need be. Then you worry about your timeout, situational awareness. I think everything becomes easier. I think he's subconsciously overwhelmed and he's never going to either see it or admit it. The boys are there. Like Elijah Badger, I think he's like top 5 in receptions for the season. He's one of the best in the SEC. Shamir DK, same thing. You know, tight end play, all those guys have kind of shown up. Jaden Ball, Matt and I talked about it, you know, the Arkansas flip. The kid's a true freshman, and he looks like he's running like Barry Sanders or Adrian Peterson, just mashing through guys. They have the talent. The talent's there. The guys believe it. And I'll go a step further, and I'll just kind of give it right now. I think Florida can outright beat Ole Miss, have the momentum. DJ Lagway getting hurt, I said maybe one of the better things for his career. And why I say that is he's now forced to make his reads, step up in a pocket, make a throw, where he didn't have to do that. He could just run now. So now he's got another aspect of his game he's working on. The kid's the real deal. I think Florida's in a good spot. They're starting to flip some recruits now. They were Florida State, so I don't know if Norvell, necessarily had the best talent because we're seeing that big drop off. But hopefully they get those kids in, build some momentum. They win this week. I think you're going to see some 5-stars flip from what I'm hearing in the program. Suddenly looks like in a good spot. They could end up winning out this season, and I don't think anybody would be surprised from a talent standpoint. They're going to get 6 wins. They'll beat Florida State, but I think they have a really big where are we going with this program this week against Ole Miss. I think if you keep it close and it's an entertaining game, you're still on the right track. Obviously, if you somehow can find an outright win, then the skies are looking pretty damn good.
Nick, I have to give credit where credit is due. I talked about last week on our show that the playoffs began last Saturday for Georgia. Their playoff began because a loss, they were out. They were already outside looking in. They took care of business, but they still got to win out here. And the reason I'm saying I got to give credit where credit is due is your Notre Dame Fighting Irish go to Texas A&M and win opening day, and then as 28-point favorites, they lose to Northern Illinois. Well, I didn't give enough credit where credit is due because from there on, your playoffs had already started. You could not afford another loss, and then you've gotten stronger and stronger each week. And in comes Army now, a number that Army's starting to get some money bought into it late today, early yesterday. But the point is, at Yankee Stadium, I assume I'm not saying you're going to do the same thing you did against Navy, but I think you're comfortable with a win this week.
Yeah, this is another thing. It's about matchups. Army needs to run the ball. Notre Dame is one of the best defensive lines in the country. 3 of them are going to play on Sundays. Howard Cross, though, is an important one. He's questionable. He's the one who'll probably be drafted in the first round, defensive tackle. Obviously, if you know a triple option, having a guy in the middle over that center is important to stop that dive. So we'll see if he plays. I am not sure. I think if he does, it might just be certain downs. But yeah, I just don't know. Bryson Daly is great. Like, don't get me wrong. That's one of the best triple option quarterbacks we've seen in a while. He can absolutely run the ball, basically runs for 200 a game almost. So yeah, but and like I said, it's just matchups. Like, they are so small compared to what Notre Dame's going to put in front of them. They have the 133rd ranked strength schedule in the country. Best team they've played is East Carolina. East Carolina doesn't have the athletes that Notre Dame has. So yeah, I don't know. I'm playing the over in this one. I'll go ahead and spill that. I think both teams score. I think Army can probably get to 13, 14-ish, and then I trust Notre Dame to get to 30. So I'm playing the over here. Flipping the other side of the ball is the biggest issue for Army. They have a good defense according to the numbers, but when you look at who they played, it's kind of rough. What they have to do is they'll have to stack the box against Notre Dame. Probably put 8 guys in there to be able to stop the run because their defensive line just can't hold up. And linebackers are fairly small. They're quick, but small, which isn't good when Notre Dame likes to run it between the tackles. What that does is it leaves corners out on the islands. And these are not NFL corners out there that are playing at Army, but they are NFL receivers playing for Notre Dame. So it's all one-on-one matchups. That makes it easier on Riley Leonard, who has had, and I'll admit, he's been good lately, but he has some accuracy issues. But what helps it is when receivers can get 5 yards of separation, he knows it's going to be man-to-man. That helps a lot. So, like I said, it goes back to matchup issues. I don't think this is a good one for Army. That's why the number has been 14, almost went to about, I think, 16 and a half, back down to about 14. But, yeah, I think this is exactly what Notre Dame wants. Kind of finally get the game on the big stage. Like most people have probably not watched the Notre Dame game since A&M maybe, or no, probably since Louisville. Louisville is probably the closest one. So, yeah, they've kind of been off the radar, but moving up the rankings. This is one. They're getting a game in Yankee Stadium at night. I think they will keep the pedal to the metal and try to blow out Army.
Or Navy. I think this game could be very reminiscent of the Navy game.
If we get 6 turnovers, yes, it will be. That would be nice. But I think Army is a little bit more protective. What I found out so it's a weird thing that with Marcus Freeman is he loses games he shouldn't lose. See Marshall, see Northern Illinois, but he's actually 6-0 against the spread in his last 6 in top 25 matchups. So say what you will about this team and his coaching, but he's always around in the big games and they show up.
Matt, before we go to a quick commercial break and we start to get everyone's picks here, Matt, I want to talk about Colorado and winning you're in and that mentality. They've been flying under the radar. Coach Prime last year was all over every commercial. Aflac, you name it, they were there every 2 seconds. The team is playing phenomenal. But my point here is we were ahead of the curve. We were waiting for a BYU team to hiccup, whether it was against Oklahoma State, whether it was against Utah. The numbers showed last week it was going to be Kansas. Kansas took care of business. Now Colorado and the Buffaloes go into Kansas. 3-point favorites, which, again, I'm Kansas or nothing this week. Give us your thoughts on the Buffs versus Kansas.
Yeah, I'm on Colorado money line here. I got it minus 135. I think that this Buffs team is for real. And I get that it's the Big 12 and a lot of people really don't pay attention to it and think that, it's just every game's a shootout, which has been the case. But this Buffalo team is playing so much better than they were last year. Shedeur Sanders still doesn't have a great offensive line, but he continues to make plays and not turn the ball over. Getting the ball to Travis Hunter, the short shot now to win that, or the favorite to win the Heisman now. The team's just stacked. And you go back to coaching and who do you trust? I think Coach Sanders is a good coach. I mean, for what he's been able to do in the spotlight of all the pressure of going, okay, now you're at a Power 5 school last year and you exceeded expectations. Okay, yeah, but can you replicate that? Let's see what you can do. And now he's on track to win the Big 12. Like, this is year 2. Most teams are still saying, oh, give it time. He'll build it. No, he built it, and he did it in a hurry. Now you just saw that he got the 5-star quarterback. Like, I think he's in this for the long haul, and I think this is the path that you take if you're Coach Sanders. You go out and you win. You win the Big 12. You prove all these haters, the doubters, wrong. And I feel like it's going to happen in Kansas City, Missouri this weekend.
All right, it's that time of the show. Elijah, quick commercial break. Quentin, you're up when we come back for the selections from 4 Men in a Box. We'll be right back. ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. I want to give a quick shout out, of course, to CT Bets Austin. Now up to 6 flavors. Matt, some time ago, got a nice little order from Viva. They added coconut, and now today they released lemon. So we're up to 6 flavors with Viva. Sooner or later, we'll get some care packages out to the rest of the boys. But Quentin, the stage is yours.
All right, I'll give you a Viva 4-pack. I took Florida plus 11. I think they can hang in this game, even with Ole Miss coming off a bye. I think the defense has a lot of young talent. They're playing with some confidence. I'm also going to take them. Florida team total over 20.5. I think they can score 21 to 24 points there. Colorado money line, for every reason Matt's on it. I think they're proving a lot of us wrong, to include myself. I think they roll. And then I do like Texas A&M money line. I think they have Tim Elko, great coach, knows how to prepare. He did it for multiple seasons at Duke. I think they get through Auburn, knowing they have to win that game to then get to that massive game against Texas. So I think they're able to get it done.
Elijah, quick commercial. Matt, the steaks, the 6 ounces, 12 ounces, whatever you want, you call Terry, you got it. The stage is yours.
Yeah, as soon as we get done with the show, I'm calling because I'm going to order some fillets. I can't find any tenderloins anywhere around here. A little bit of breaking news, though. Adam Schefter just posted that the Giants are releasing Daniel Jones. So it's over in New York. Colorado money line minus 135. Already talked about it. I just don't think Kansas has faced the type of athletes yet that Colorado has. Colorado ranks number 31 in pass offense success rate, going up a Kansas team who is 83rd in pass defense. I feel like Shadur is going to be able to throw the ball around. Wyoming, Boise State under 57.5. This is assuming that Ashton Genty runs for 300 yards in the first half and then rides the pine the second half. They're going up to a Wendy Laramie 2-8 Wyoming team. They're 119th in points per game forced. I just don't think Wyoming's going to be able to score, and I don't think Boise State is going to care to run the score up. They've pretty much just win and you're in. Keep Ashton Genty and the quarterback healthy and carry on. I like the under in that one. SMU minus 5.5 for the first half. This was a split bet for me. I bet half a unit on the first half, half a unit on the full game, minus 9.5. But I really like this minus 5.5 for SMU. They're the number 3 team in the country in first half points forced. When we saw last week that Rhett Lashley likes to put up points that don't matter. He scored a touchdown there at the end of the game. I feel like he's getting that style points matter in this. And as you saw him on the college football playoff show the other night, I really feel like the committee is pushing for them to get in. They're facing a Virginia defense who ranks number 95 in first half points allowed. So we were a winner on the first quarter last week with Oregon, Wisconsin. Thankfully, let's do it again. Get these early bets out of the way. Ole Miss, Florida, over 55.5. I don't know if Florida can hang and cover, like Q said, with Florida plus 11. But what I do think they can do is put up more points than what Ole Miss is used to allowing. I think DJ Lagway's really figured it out. I feel like the overs giveaway because the Ole Miss team total first half 16.5. That's my next bet. Let's score points early. Let's score them often. Let's get this up. All Florida really has to do, I feel like, is score 17 to 21 points, and this is going to go over. And then last but not least, Indiana plus 3.5 in the first quarter. I don't know if Indiana has the horses to contend with Ohio State through the full game, but I do think if you go coach on coach, what are your scripted plays? What are my scripted plays? I feel like Kurt Cignetti can draw up enough. All they really need to do is get a touchdown in the first quarter. So whether it be they get the ball first, go down and score, or force Ohio State to punt, I feel like this is going to cover because I feel like it's going to be a lot of just feeling each other out in that first quarter. Indiana is the number 2 team in the country in first quarter points allowed and number 13 in first quarter points forced. So I wanted to get involved in this game. Felt like this was the best way to do it because I don't know what happens if the wheels fall off for Indiana going down the stretch. Let's just cash it in the first quarter and be done with it.
Nick, we're going to have to find a new sponsor for us since we've added 4 Men in a Box so we can get you your own commercial, hopefully in the next few weeks. Any business owners, anyone with a product they want to jump on to 4 Men in a Box, send us an email to eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com. We'll take good care of you, I promise. Nick, the stage is yours.
Yeah, I'll give you 4 plays today. I already mentioned Army Notre Dame over 44.5. Another way to play that is also Notre Dame team total has dropped down to 29.5. If you don't trust Army to score, that's also another way to approach it. But I'm just playing the full game over for right now. Also taking Alabama minus 13.5 in Norman. I just don't see how Oklahoma scores. I don't think Alabama is going to be trying to run up the score or anything. Oklahoma can keep it close for the first half, I believe. That's why I didn't want to play the first half. Norman is still a tough place to play, especially at night. I think this is one where Alabama just pulls away at the end. So give me the 2 touchdowns. Back to the well, SMU team total over 34.5. Matt kind of mentioned everything with Virginia, SMU still looking for style points, especially with Boise jumping them. They need to make sure if they win the Big 12, they get that 4 seed and they're not stuck in being the 12 seed. So I think they try to run up the score here on Virginia. Virginia can't protect the ball, as we saw last week against Notre Dame. Should lead to some easy short fields points over 34.5 for SMU. And in the big game, I'm actually playing the under 52.5 for Indiana, Ohio State. I think both these defensive lines are better than both offensive lines. Both quarterbacks are going to be under a lot of pressure. Both kind of banged up a little bit, dealing with some injuries. Secondaries have been great. IU, a lot of people talk about their offense because they're blowing people out. Defense is very underrated. I believe they have the 12th ranked defense in the country right now. And it's Ohio State. What have we seen from them? They've blown out Purdue. They've blown out Northwestern. Other than that, they've played kind of slow, methodical. They try to run the ball 50 times. I think it'll be the same way, little feeling out process. So give me the under in Indiana, Ohio State.
An amazing debut for 4 Men in a Box, guys. We're going to take this to the top here, whether it's college football. We haven't even talked college basketball. And, oh, by the way, there'll be some college baseball before you know it. Go UConn, go UConn. Nick, where can they find you?
On X at InHalfCoat413. Also post some plays and info on Instagram at just InHalfCoat.
Matt?
The dogs are barking. I'm at Grissom on X, or go to collegefootballinsiders.com. Check out all the great work that Parker and Nick are churning out over there. It's where I get all of our stats from EPA to success rate and first quarter, first half, second half, points allowed, points forced. It's really a cool tool that I started using just a couple weeks ago. It's cool to see the difference in how teams, if they start fast, how much slower they play in the second half as far as points forced. I'm trying to think of an example, but there was a team that was 4th in first half points forced, but then in the second half, they dropped to like 68th. So I don't know if the offense is just letting the defense figure it out what they're doing. But yeah, it's a pretty cool tool. So go check that out.
Last but never least, Mr. Quentin Mills.
You can find me on X at QMilly, 3 L's, 2 Y's on that one. And then on X again at NCAA Insiders.
An amazing debut, gentlemen. Only a couple hundred live views just on Twitter. That doesn't count YouTube and the other platforms. Take a bow. Amazing work as always. Go follow each and one of them on X. And, of course, jump on over to NCAA Insiders. Gentlemen, cash some tickets. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the weekend. Go, I was going to say Army. Go Notre Dame, of course. Good luck with Florida. And, Matt, tell Terry I said hello. How's that sound?
I will. About to order those fillets, and I guess I'm going to try the new Limon Viva Tequila because the coconut ones went quick.
To Quentin, to Nick, to Matt, we have an amazing show, guys. We can't thank everyone else for following us. Elijah, quick commercial break, then we're going to bring Adam Trigger on to talk some college hoops. We'll be right back.
Jared, hey, we're going to need you to tone it down with the Summer Friday thing, okay?
What are you talking about?
Well, for one, it's not summer anymore.
Oh, really?
Coconut. Also, who is this?
I'm the caddy.
Oh, he's my intern.
Sorry, intern. I'm his intern.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
No golfing in the office, okay? Summer Fridays are over. You can keep the Hawaiian shirt, but the rest of the stuff, all right? Are you grilling?
Oh, yeah. Did you want a burger or a hot dog?
No, grilling in the office.
It's a good point. We should take this outside.
No, that don't. You put that right back down.
Yo, it's all in the hips.
Oh, dude, come on, we gotta go. Let's go.
Well, we had him a couple extra minutes backstage. Apologies, of course, the one and only Mr. Adam Trigger.
What's going on, Jeff? I'm looking forward to that lemon Viva flavor because I'm not like so I love Viva. Obviously, the first 4 flavors are great, but I just don't like coconut. Like it has nothing to do with Viva. It's just coconut is not my thing. So I'm excited for the lemon. That's more my speed. So looking forward to trying that.
I got my spreadsheets. It's like Christmas Day. The tournaments are beginning. We knew the first 2 weeks. Get your feet wet and play some teams you're supposed to beat. Let's find out the certain rotations. You look today, tournaments everywhere. I know UConn Monday goes to Maui. What are you seeing? I mean, you got to be a kid in the candy store right now.
Yeah, I mean it's great from a respect of like just the amount of games. There's so many more MTEs now, and they've made them all. It almost feels like conference tournament week this week into next week with all the tournaments, the games during the days, games during the day. It's fantastic if you're a fan of college basketball. If you're trying to make money betting this sport, I don't know how great it is. I mean, this is where the randomness I think really, really comes in to play. So it's really just like trying to isolate a couple of good spots, survive, and move to the next day, which is really what November college basketball betting has become. I've said it so many times over the last couple of weeks. November, December is a lot tougher than it used to be. Back in the day, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you had teams that were the same from the year before playing teams that were similar from the year before, and it was just easier to project. Now it's a free-for-all, but from a fan standpoint, Jeff, it's awesome having games all day. I'm not going to complain about that.
Well, and you and I think the same here. It was a couple years ago where I found a chink in the armor with about 10 to 15 point differentials with the unders and overs. And we went on this most amazing run to start the year. And we coasted as we got into conference play and, of course, into March Madness. As you said, the markets have gotten tighter, more states involved. Who do you trust? Who do you not trust? Last night, we had the Virginia team total under 57 and a hook. I think they scored 40. I think we were also blessed there because the first game went into double overtime. So these teams that were getting all lathered up had to stay into the locker room an extra half hour there. We were also fortunate a couple nights ago. We had Alabama minus 7.5. We had their team total over there. So we're picking our spots, but we're now to that point where the rubber meets the road. I know there's some big marquee games. The biggest one, of course, tonight, Duke and Arizona. Baylor plays Tennessee, which is kind of, Baylor coming off that double overtime, which they should have lost in my eyes, but they were fortunate to beat St. John's. And I know we're going to talk some smaller games, of course, here. But in the first couple of weeks, what are your eyes seeing on the parquet, Adam?
So it's funny. There's a lot of stuff that I talked about prior to the season. We'll get into a couple of those things in a little bit are coming true. And that's the thing. When you've got 364 Division I college basketball teams, like there's also been teams I've been off on. Like I'll give you a perfect example. UNC Greensboro was a team, Jeff, that we discussed on this show 2-3 weeks prior to the season. And this is where the unknown comes in. Mike Jones, he's a fantastic defensive coach. I wasn't sure if they could replace the scoring, but they've looked really good. So it's really the challenge, Jeff, is taking what we've seen through the first 3 weeks, taking what we thought coming into the season where, looking at teams for a month or two coming into the season, what the makeup is, like what the outlook is, and then deciding, do we trust what we've seen in a limited sample, or how much stock do we need to put into what we thought this team was going to be? That's like the biggest challenge. And that's why I think these first 6 to 8 weeks are so challenging. It's not to say you can't make money in the first to 6, 8, first 2 months of the season. It's very possible. But that is the challenge. Trying to figure out, do I trust what I've just witnessed for 5 games, or do I revert back to where I thought this team was going to be based on like a whole summer worth of research? That's the challenge.
Well, the dogs are barking loud here. And before we get into the 2 games you want to break down, I want to give you some props. I always give credit where credit is due. And you talked a month ago, you talked 3 weeks ago, you talked 2 weeks ago about this VCU team. And this VCU team has been playing some great ball. We were able to cash a couple tickets early on them. Tough win, a tough game yesterday. But thoughts on what your eyes have seen so far with VCU?
Yeah, I'm still a believer in VCU. Listen, Seton Hall, I don't really, that's not a loss that concerns me a ton. The reason I say that is Seton Hall now is basically what St. Peter's was to the MAC when Shaheen Holloway was in the MAC. They were never the best team. They were never the worst team. That NCAA tournament run that St. Peter's went on to the Elite Eight it was so improbable, and just I think a result of that's just what happens in the NCAA tournament sometime. That's kind of what he is at Seton Hall. He's going to grind out wins that he shouldn't necessarily. Seton Hall is going to win games that they maybe shouldn't win. They are going to lose games that they should win. It's just they're Holloway's tough as nails. He plays a style that's going to put him prone to bad losses or losses to a team like Fordham. They lost another one to a kind of a lesser team, but they're going to be able to grind some of the better teams because the defense is, insanely good. They play hard and they can really frustrate teams, which is what they did to VCU yesterday. I still think VCU is going to roll through the A-10. I know a lot of people have been impressed with Dayton. That's one, Jeff, where I'll be looking for my spot to go against Dayton. Maybe it is in Maui next week when they play North Carolina, now that Dayton's going to leave their home floor and finally pick on someone their own size to an extent. But I'm still not a believer in Dayton. I still think VCU is the best team in the Atlantic 10.
And getting back to VCU, I think it was actually the perfect storm for Seton Hall. They had struggled out of the gate, and the Big East, quote unquote, had been down. A lot of the teams have started off slow. So I think it was the perfect storm. Before we get to the 2 games that we're going to have you break you down, I have to ask you this. On Monday, I was rooting real hard last night for Memphis to beat San Francisco. I did not want them coming into a loss. Monday, they face off against UConn in Maui. Ken Palm has UConn 77-71. I know you had talked about some inflated numbers with this UConn team. They're winning by 35. They have played no one, so let's get that straight. Just using a Ken Palm number of 6 here, do you think that's too much inflation, or do you think the number's about right there with them favored by 6 per Ken Palm?
Well, Memphis has now got me twice in the last week. I played against Memphis with Ohio last week. And I thought that was more of Ohio missing Sharif Mitchell and not playing very well. Memphis, of course, blew them out. And then Memphis got me again last night. I was on San Francisco, had a 9-point halftime lead, and Memphis found a way. Now, I talked about on this show, wanting to play against UConn when they faced off against some of the better teams. But now Memphis is coming in. They haven't lost. They haven't not covered. I have, my gut is telling me that UConn is going to be, you're going to probably get a more favorable number on UConn than you should because of how good Memphis has been out of the gate. But when you look at the Memphis numbers, I think we saw some of the shooting regression start to happen yesterday. They didn't play a great first half. I mean, it's pretty frustrating to, I had San Francisco +1, had a good number. I think that went off -2, maybe even -2.5 places. And San Francisco just couldn't make a shot in the second half. Totally a tale of 2 halves. But the shooting regression definitely started for Memphis. If they don't continue their hot shooting, they're not going to beat a team like UConn. They're just not. So you might actually get your spot to bet against, to bet on UConn, because I don't know that I want to buy Memphis. Memphis is, in my opinion, at the peak that they're going to be all season. Do you want to take Memphis at their peak against a team like UConn? Probably not. But I'll have to see where that opens up, but I think that number's probably about right.
The Dons have been very profitable for ECSI San Francisco for the last handful of years, and I love that late West Coast action. And they're one of those teams that does fly under the radar. And I'll give you props where props are due. Great eyes. I like to say right side, wrong result there. Bad second half, couldn't throw it in the ocean. 2 games you want to break down. Longwood UAB tonight. UAB opened up 6.5 overnight, now has climbed to 8.5 in some spots. Under over at 144.5 last night. That too has bounced up to 148. Thoughts there, Adam?
Yeah, so this one's for the live viewers because this actually starts in 36 minutes. So this is a 12:30 tip-off on ESPN. It's part of the Virgin Islands tournament. So this is one of the plays that I have at Wager Talk. So I wanted to, give one out for the live viewers. This is a bet that I made, 4% play. That's our rating system at Wager Talk. So pretty big play for me. I took Longwood plus 8.5. I think it might be back down to 7.5. I still like it there. So Jeff, I went out to Binghamton on Tuesday night, got a chance to watch this Longwood team play in person. Actually sat literally right behind head coach Griff Aldrich, who pleaded with his team in the first half to pick up the intensity to, they were slow to rotate on Binghamton's ball movement, just slow out of the gate, made all the right adjustments, did just that, and grinded out a 66-60 win. And that right there put in my head, okay, see who they play next, right? Because they did not cover. They were a 7.5 point favorite in that game against Binghamton. They only won by 6, but I was really impressed with the adjustments they made. I was really impressed with KJ McClurg, who's one of those D2 transfers. Jeff, the D2 transfers have been awesome, like across the country. There are coaches that have decided that they're going to go hit up D2 for like a really good D2 player that's a proven commodity, as opposed to like a D1 guy that maybe didn't work out somewhere and having to inherit like a problem, if you will, or try to fix a problem. They're all over the country. They've had success doing this. And McClurg is one of those guys, 16.8 points per game so far this season for Longwood. I was standing next to him for a minute. He looks like me. Not an imposing kid. Probably like, I'm not 6'3". He's taller than me, but like he's always in the right place. He's an assassin from 3. And I don't think the books, I don't think they're adjusting for like the players that were like complete unknowns, right? Like the guy that comes up from D2 and is now a team's best player. Like, remember, Longwood was an NCAA tournament team last year, won the Big South tournament. Believe they lost to maybe Tennessee in the first round, but they were an NCAA tournament team last year. They lost a lot. So to get a guy like McClurg in there to replace some of what they lost, I think this team is pretty good. And the other thing, Jeff, the market has no clue what to do with some of these teams. Longwood came out, they're 5-0. They came out and smashed their first 2 opponents and then smashed some non-D1, covered both of those games. The next 2 games are Tennessee Martin and Binghamton, and now suddenly they're a monster favorite, right? So they win but fail to cover against Tennessee Martin. They win but fail to cover against Binghamton, and suddenly they're an 8.5 point dog on a neutral floor at noon on the Virgin Islands against a UAB team that, Jeff, they struggle in this spot all the time. If you've watched UAB over the years, they are public enemy number 1 when it comes to just playing down to quote unquote bad teams or playing down as a big favorite. They did it all year last year to the point where like it almost cost them an NCAA tournament bid last year. Barely beat Alcorn State. Let Alabama A&M hang around. This is last season. Those are bad basketball teams. UNC Asheville hung around with them. Texas San Antonio, they lost to Rice. They got destroyed by Arkansas State. And this was a UAB team that was an NCAA tournament team last year. And now this year, UAB team that's everyone loves UAB in the American. So if you're not Team Memphis, you think UAB is going to win this league. Like those are the 2 teams that, no one's giving anyone else a shot in the American. Those are the 2 teams everyone loves. And rightfully so. But you look at UAB this year, they let Southeast Louisiana hang around. Cover 21.5. They lose to Vermont, a team that is 1-4 against the spread at this point. Outright loss at home. And there's so many instances of them. Southern Miss gave them a game, and then they like covered right at the end. So many instances of UAB letting teams like Longwood hang around. Why would they not do it at noon on a tropical island, Jeff, right? Like if they're going to, that is not the spot that you come and you're just crisp and ready to go. But Longwood might be because they just had a sleepy spot in Binghamton on Tuesday. I think they maybe shook the cobwebs off in a game that it was hard to get up on. There was like 1,200 people at the game. I was right next to the Longwood bench. He was screaming at his team, like, wake up. Like, this is, the game started 20 minutes ago. I feel like they're less likely to fall into that sort of lull in the noon tip. National TV, I think Longwood could win here, Jeff. I took the 8.5. I have, my gut tells me that this is going to be one of those like upset, early day upset type games today. I like the Lancers.
Second game, Colgate and Harvard. I pulled up Ken Palm for this one. 71-70. Ken Palm has Harvard winning this game over Colgate.
Yeah, so this is I haven't made a play here yet. These are just two teams I wanted to talk about because I think if I kind of give you my glimpse at this game, you could potentially make money down the road with these two teams. So the key, I do lean Harvard. So let's just to throw out a lean here. I lean toward Harvard, but it's heavily contingent on them getting a couple of guys back. And this has been a team that's been very hard to get information on. So I don't know if they're coming back. I do know that the market has bet them the last couple times out thinking they might get it's Lewis Lesmond and Austin Hunt are the two guys that are out. Harvard took a bunch of money against Northeastern. Neither of those guys played. They got blown out. They took money over the weekend against Colorado. Neither played. They got blown out. So I know Hunt. I was at the game. He got hurt down at Navy. He tweaked a hamstring and instantly limped off the court. So who knows how close he is, right? But it's been a couple weeks. He's probably close. Lesmond was their leading scorer from last year. He was in a boot in that game. He was in a boot on the bench the whole first week of the season. So I think it was an ankle sprain of some sort. You got to think that happened before the season. He's probably getting close. So those are the two names that I want to monitor for Harvard because Hunt is a freshman that they're very, very high on internally. I know that. And then Lesmond was their best scorer from last year. And I think if you put those two back in with Robert Hinton, who's the stud freshman in the Ivy this year, he's a super talent, one of the most talented players in that league. I do think Harvard will be better. On the side of Colgate, and I want to circle back to something that I said, Jeff, a couple weeks before the season. I said Colgate and Vermont are two teams that are being priced off of what they've been the last 5 years, the last 6 years, the last decade. Neither of those two teams have the talent that they've had in years past, in my opinion. And I'm kicking myself because I haven't bet against either yet this year because I haven't really found the right spot to do so. But Vermont 1-4 against the spread, Colgate 1-2 against the spread. So if you just took that, and bet it every single time, those two teams are combined 2-6 against the spread. Colgate just doesn't have talent. That's the problem. Colgate, the last 5-6 years, when they keep rattling off Patriot League win after Patriot League win, has had really good talent. This team has no talent. Braden Smith, who was their best player, is now at Gonzaga redshirting so he can play with Gonzaga next year. Colgate hasn't had that happen. I mean, they'll lose guys as grad transfers because there's no graduate school at Colgate. It's entirely undergrad. So a guy like Nelly Cummings, who graduates and then goes and plays his fifth year at Pitt, that's going to happen. Colgate has now lost multiple guys like Smith and then Thompson over to Northeastern that they expected to have for 5 years. Team is just void of talent right now. They lose Keegan Records last year, who was the best player on that team last season. They're just not a very good team. I mean, Matt Langle's still a fantastic coach. Team's just not very good. So I'm looking for spots to play against Colgate. I really wanted to do it here, but Jeff, I just don't know if I can get to the window with Harvard without Hunt and without Lesmond. So that's what I'll keep an eye on. I will tweet it out. If I get any info on that, I will post it to Twitter. So follow me on my Twitter at AdamTriggerWT. If I can get wind of either of those guys playing, I will likely bet Harvard and I will tweet it out. But if I can't, I'm probably going to have to pass. Though this is in your neck of the woods, Jeff, down at why can I never remember the name of this? Is it Levitas? Why can I never remember the name of Harvard's gym?
I'm drawing a blank as well. It
Yeah,
is
it's right down in Cambridge, New York, at Harvard's gym that I'm totally blanking on the name right now for some reason. True home game for Harvard. My gut says they get it done either way, but I would want Hunt or Lesman back to make a bet on that game.
As you stated, the scroller has been going the whole time. Go follow Adam at Adam Trigger WT. But as we always wrap up this segment, Adam, tell everyone what you got at Wager Talk.
Yeah, so I just gave you one of the plays I have up for today at Wager Talk. That's Longwood plus 8.5. And if you're a live, it's only going to be good for the live viewers. So thanks for tuning in live, because that game starts in 26 minutes down in the Virgin Islands. So jump on that if you're still watching. I've got 2 other college basketball plays for today. I had a nice winner with the Browns last night, Jeff, in the snow globe game in Cleveland. So NFL has been kind of rolling for me, the last couple week, last week plus. And I've got a big play in the NFL on Sunday. So you're going to find that on my page as well. But yes, right now, 3 college basketball plays in total for today. And just gave you one of them with Longwood. The other 2 are available at Wager Talk.
Almost 300 standing room only live viewers just on Twitter here alone. That and a big show today as always. And thank you to Elijah Cox, Levites Pavilion.
Levites Pavilion, right? That's it.
Yes. Yeah. Adam, best of luck this weekend. Enjoy yourself, and we'll catch you next Friday at the same time.
All right. Thanks for having me, Jeff. Have a great weekend.
Take care. Elijah, quick commercial break, and we'll wrap it up. What a way to start the day. While you guys were sleeping, I'm up early before the sun, getting the cardio in, heading to the gym, ran a couple errands. Next thing you know, I'm on Andrew McGinnis, YouTube with Wager Talk at 10 a.m. Back here at 11 a.m. for the debut of 4 Men in a Box. And then, of course, Adam Trigger. As I said, over 300 live standing room only just on Twitter. I'm going to do the same thing that I did for Andrew's show here. Anyone new to ECSI, anyone new to East Coast Sports Investors, we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary. I'm a giver. I don't do well on the receiving end. And so what I'm going to do very simply is this. If you head over to our website at eastcoastsportsinvestors.com, okay? And the top right, there's a plans and pricing button right there. Okay, first and foremost, go follow me at EC Sports Invest on Twitter. That's number one. But head over to the website, eastcoastsportsinvestors.com, plans and pricing. Scroll all the way to the bottom. You're going to see 2 boxes there. $375 retail. That's our pricing since January 1st, 2015. It's not moving. That's our retail price on a month-to-month basis. That's texts, that's emails. That is the sharpest numbers across the planet. Our connections with Jeffrey Benson and Vegas and the Circa and everyone else that we've added to our Rolodex. All the old people know what Rolodex is throughout our. My first bet was in 1975, guys. Yeah, that's almost 50 years. So my point is simple. There's a $99 a month. That's a $3 a month introductory. Welcome to the ECSI family. Okay. What I'm doing there is click that button, and I am going to give you $99 for the rest of 2024 through the Super Bowl. But I don't want you to do that. What I really, really want you to do is to click the next button. That's $375. And that's supposed to be on a month-to-month basis, but we're taking it a step further. You're going to get one charge for $375. We're going to take you through 2024. We're going to take you through the Super Bowl. Okay? In 2017, we had the most historic run in the history of college basketball. We went on a 30-2 run. Okay? It will never be duplicated. We're going to take you through the conference championship. We're going to take you through March Madness. We're going to hopefully have UConn cut the nets down for the three-peat, but we're going to take it a step further. We're going to take you through the month of April. Why? I want you to take a look at our Masters. We were 4-0 in the majors in golf. There's nothing we don't do. I want you to be a part of that. Okay? This package alone, retail, would cost you almost $2,000. Okay? If you were doing it on a month-to-month basis, just at the $99 rate, it would cost you $600. We're giving it to you for $375 today. Okay? So click that button. Come on board. We're 3-0 our last college hoop games. We got a boatload coming in today. Be a part of the ECSI family. Make this your Thanksgiving and Christmas present to you. I promise you profit. I promise you profit. I got to give a big shout out to Elijah Cox. You made the 4 Men in a Box happen. It was an amazing show. I want to shout out, of course, to Mr. Russell Saylor. I want to shout out to Richard Poplis. Go Huskies, go. I'm smiling ear to ear here. It was a hell of a show. We cracked 300 live viewers just on Twitter. As Karen Carpenter once sang, we've only just begun. I'm going to say 3 o'clock. Myself and Riley will be back for the closing bell. Keep an eye on our timeline. We will figure out exactly what time we're going to go live and get everyone caught up. Other than that, shout out to the 4 Men in the Box. Shout out to Adam Trigger. Shout out to everyone here. And of course, Elijah Cox. We will see you soon.